This is 911. Do you have an emergency?
Today on Rescue 911, a family in terror.
My son is armed and dangerous. We know where he is.
As a mentally distraught man stalks his loved ones.
He shot me. Do you need an ambulance? Yes.
Leaving one victim wounded and officers with only one choice. Plus,
he must have been going about 60 miles an hour.
a hang glider violently crashes,
I thought Gilbert was gone.
sending a rescue squad off-road on Rescue 911.
We begin in suburban Texas, where 5 years of growing problems finally came to a head for one family on July 20th, 1989. Actors portraying the family members have helped us reconstruct the chain of events that followed.
Late in the afternoon, a woman we will call Susan went by her 78-year-old mother's house to check up on her.
I left work, and for some reason I didn't come straight home. And my mother lives very close to me, and I stopped that day. I'm not sure why.
Susan had been uneasy ever since her son had been released from a state mental institution 9 days earlier. She had committed him after several incidents of violence and threats to kill the family. Now he was out and threatening to buy a gun.
How tall is your grandson?
5.
Okay.
Officer Regina Joseph had taken the police report from Susan's mother.
She was frightened, and she was very concerned because Jimmy had a gun and my mother had a bump on her head. He had knocked her down and hit her. And mother just instinctively grabbed the phone and dialed 911. As soon as he saw her dial the numbers, he ripped the phone out of the wall and he left.
The mother was particularly concerned about the son because he did state to her that he would kill a police officer.
I called my daughter at work. I told her that he had been to my mother's and had assaulted her, and that he had a gun, and that he was psychotic, and that he was looking for the rest of us.
Susan's daughter hurried home to get a few things before going to stay with a friend.
I think it was very hard for Martha because at that point, Martha realized that she had been mistaken about the severity of his illness. I think we all thought he would come for me first because I was the one who had initiated the commitment proceedings, and I was the one he had initially threatened, and Martha had been his advocate. I don't think it ever occurred to her that he would hurt her.
When we continue.
He has a gun. Officer. Hello? Officer, where am I supposed to... What's the address, ma'am, please? Martha, I don't know the address.
And I told her to hang up, and I called 911.
The call came into 911 at 6:23 p.m.
Dallas Emergency Sapien?
Yes, I need a police officer.
What's the problem, ma'am?
My son is armed and dangerous. We know where he is. He is at my daughter's apartment.
And what was the address there?
This is the phone number. 306. That's the number where he is.
Okay, what type of call was this, ma'am?
She answered an aggravated assault call on my son. He's schizophrenic.
I figured since the mother was in a lot of stress and she was afraid, she could just remember the phone number. And that's why I decided to call that number.
Martha? Hello? Get there. He has a gun. Officer?
Hello?
Officer?
Where am I supposed to... What's the address, ma'am, please?
Martha? I don't know the address. He's breaking into her apartment. He has a gun. Martha, what's the address?
Hello?
could hear the alarm, I knew he had broken in. It was making it hard to hear her.
Is he in the apartment? I don't know, Mama. All right. The reason you can't let Mama, he shot me. He shot you? He shot me. Where?
The first police officers to respond were Brian Daglewitz and his partner.
6:23, we received the call. We got an emergency call that there had been a shooting at a location. We were getting information from the 911 dispatcher who was on the phone with the complainant that had been shot, who the suspect was, and a description of the suspect.
My hand. It's all right, honey. It's just your hand, Martha.
I knew that if anything happened, if I lost her, it maybe didn't matter if he came for me.
Where are the police? They'll be there. Wrap something around your hand, hold it higher than your heart. Oh, try and slow your breathing down.
Calm down, Martha. Just slow your breathing down. You're gonna be fine. They're on their way, okay?
Okay.
Less than 3 minutes later, paramedic Mark Howell and his partner Buster Muncy arrived.
Can you hear him? I hear an ambulance.
I was relieved that the paramedics were there, but I was afraid that he was still out on the loose because he was very determined to go hurt the rest of his family. That's what Martha told me.
Here they come.
Yeah, they're coming.
They come.
Did you call for an ambulance?
Here I am.
When we walked in, the lady had blood on her arms and all down the front of her shirt. Asked her if she's okay, and she was real hysterical. So we got her to come over and sit on the couch, try to calm her down and see what her injuries were. The bullet entered her hand next to her index fingers and looked to be lodged on the back side of her hand towards her wrist area.
Are you allergic to any drugs that you know of?
No.
Oh, it's very clear that it was a close call on her part in that he was attempting to shoot her in the face, and then just in the last second, she threw her hands up just in self-defense.
What kind of gun did he have? Do you know?
I'm probably a little angry at me because I didn't see this better. I think it could have been a lot worse. I'm very thankful that it was just my hand and that it was me instead of Granny.
On her way to the hospital, Susan flagged down a passing police officer, Tom Payne.
She's been shot. She's been shot.
She stated to me that her daughter had been shot and that she needed to get up there right away, and she wanted me to escort her. She then told me that it was her son who was the suspect on this shooting. She was very adamant that he was an extremely violent person and that any contact with him would be a very serious encounter.
You can drive your car. We're going to let you drive yourself over to the hospital.
Okay.
Okay?
I guess she particularly felt, for some reason, that I would be the one that was going to confront her son. I never really could understand that, but she kept looking at me right in the eyes and saying, "You're going to have to kill him. You're going to have to kill him."
Payne had been heading to meet Sergeant Debbie O'Neill. Together they went to Susan's home to look for her son.
We proceeded over to the complex where the mother lived. We drove around the complex for a little while and we were unable to locate the vehicle that we were looking for. We had received information earlier that the suspect would kill any officer that attempted to apprehend him.
We stopped the car about 30 feet from where he was in the driveway. We looked at him, he looked at us, and we exited the vehicle and drew our weapons on him, and Sergeant O'Neill commanded him a couple times there to get on the ground, to put his hands up. He looked, he thought.
Don't move! Don't move!
And he got down on the ground and just decided he just didn't want to do what he was thinking about.
Stay down!
620, we've got the suspect
We were looking at him
in
on the
custody.
ground there, and he just looked over at us and he said, "I just didn't want to die today."
On one hand, I feel very grateful that it wasn't a lot worse than it was, but at the same time, we have lost Jimmy, and yet he is still there because Jimmy's still very ill, and very angry, and still continues to say that when he gets out, there'll be a lot of dead bodies lying around. And we've been told that he means what he says.
Next.
The nose just pointed down. He didn't have any control. Down he went, going towards the trees, just like somebody had shot him from an arrow.
We begin on July 30th, 1989, in the Sorrowtown Mountains, near Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
All right, look at him go.
It's a beautiful sport. I myself didn't want to be up there, but it was amazing just to see what good times they were having.
I'll be up to join you, Jim.
Gilbert Aldrich was an experienced hang glider pilot. During the 6 months he had been dating Nancy Lumley, she had often accompanied him when he went flying.
Whatever he gets into his sport, I was happy just to be with him. You know how girls do when they date guys, they want to please them.
It's gonna be good.
The only other pilots on the mountain that day were Jim Bruton and Doug Rice.
Jim was already soaring overhead, so the conditions looked good, and I was in a hurry to join them.
Here you go, baby. There's your backpack.
Pull that down and back, would you?
He had showed me how to set a glider up, how all the tubes, where they went. And since I had set him up, you know, I did the check.
This one needs a little bit straighter. I don't mind helping you, but you gotta cooperate.
Yeah, I'll just keep my eye on Jim.
Okay.
So he holds that glider up, and then he would go over to the launch pad.
Okay.
Okay, babe, watch that tree over there.
All right.
Okay, come on, I'll help you on the ramp with it.
All right, let's set her down right here so I can look things over.
Okay.
Okay.
And you forgot your helmet.
Oh. Can't reach it.
About that time, a good breeze comes.
Got it.
They always say that you might wait another hour, possibly, before you get that other good breeze.
I'm getting up there.
So you go for it. The nose just pointed down. He didn't have any control. Down he went, going towards the trees, just like somebody had shot him from an arrow.
It was after I'd gotten my glider off my truck when I heard Nancy scream.
See, he's over there in the trees.
I tried to keep Nancy calm while looking for some sign of movement. Since the normal flying speed of the glider is only about 25 miles an hour, I've never seen anybody get hurt by landing in a tree.
Jim, you see Gil's flight? He's down in the trees.
Okay.
Go down and land. I'll meet you at the bottom.
Okay, I'll go down and get him.
Doug said, you go down to the road. By the time you get to the road, Gilbert's going to be standing there waiting on you.
Jim, Doug, and Nancy all headed down to look for Gilbert.
I drove, and I drove, and I drove, and no Gilbert. And by this time, the tears, you know, they were streaming, and I couldn't hardly see to drive, and I thought, this can't happen to us. I mean, I love this guy.
The glider would obviously be the easiest thing to see. The main concern was maybe he wasn't able to get out of the glider. When I first saw the glider, Gil was not in it. And then As I moved in just a little bit closer to where the glider was, that's when I had the shock of my life.
What happened?
He said I wasn't hooked in.
Gil's over here, Jim.
At that point, the whole frightening scenario of what had happened kicked in.
Don't worry, Gil. We're gonna get you out here, buddy. Oh, bud.
He's been laying here for about 45 minutes, hasn't moved, and I realized that to have come down, straight down, as he obviously did, that he must have been going about 60 miles an hour.
Oh, God, it's bad.
He'd lost quite a bit of blood. Was struggling to speak as if the wind had been knocked out of him, and we assumed that he had internal injuries.
All right, I'm gonna get you some help. Make sure you can get back to the spot.
Doug ran to the nearest house to call for help. A rescue squad from the Sorrowtown Volunteer Fire Department and a Stokes County ambulance were immediately dispatched to the scene.
Hurry, Jim back. I think he's hurt bad.
When I heard the sirens, I knew then I'm not going to find him up there, you know, just jumping up and Clement running in my arms. He's hurt.
Among those who responded was paramedic Greg Collins.
It's very steep, very rocky, and very rough. We knew it would take at least 30 to 40 minutes to get back down off the mountain.
They were considering whether or not they needed a helicopter, and I asked them to absolutely get a helicopter. I have lost a couple of friends, but Gil's accident was one of the worst I've had to see since I've been in the sport of hang gliding.
Nancy!
I didn't know where Gilbert was alive or dead until he said his first words.
You know where you at? Can you hear me? Yeah.
They were asking him what day it was. And it was Sunday, and he said it's Tuesday.
The second BP is 80/40.
They told us that he had an open fracture of his arm, decreased lung sounds to one side, which was indication that he probably had a collapsed lung.
Ambulance up ahead.
His blood pressure was dropping dramatically over 5-minute intervals. He looked shocky, he was cold. In a day with a temperature around 85 to 90, he should not have been cold. This man was in serious trouble.
You're gonna get to ride in a helicopter. Something I've been wanting to do for a long time.
I couldn't even see in front of me. I was crying so hard. I mean, he was just as white could be. It was like all the blood was drained out of him. I thought Gilbert was gone.
When the Air Care helicopter got Gilbert to Baptist Hospital, he was barely clinging to life.
2 liters of fluid in flight.
A trauma team awaited his arrival, led by Dr. Wayne Meredith.
He lost about half his blood, internally and externally. And so he was reaching the end of the fuse on his time bomb.
You need to get this tube in your chest. You popped your lung over here, okay?
You wait all your life for that special someone.
Blood pressure, but we need to take him in the operating room because it looks like his kidney's been hurt pretty bad.
I was going to stick with him. I was going to be right there with him and pull him through this. I knew I wasn't a doctor, but I'd always heard that if a person has love and a person has will to live, you're not going to lose him.
I'm going to be out in the waiting room, okay? I love you, darling.
Okay, somebody call the OR. Tell them we're on the way.
Family think the tennis court belongs to the park.
3 months after the accident, I could just barely walk a half a mile. But Nancy was willing to give everything that she had for me.
Gilbert Aldrich underwent more than a year of rehabilitation, including 8 weeks in the hospital with a bruised brain, collapsed lung, punctured kidney, and broken elbow.
Then I'd have probably panicked, and I guess I would have fell and been a greasy spot.
He's terrific. Has a little ups and downs with the elbow, probably always will, but besides that, he is back to normal, and we don't even talk about hang gliding.
If he'd been in shock another hour, he would have probably died of infections. The first responders and the pre-hospital group in this case did great. I think they did terrific, and they wasted no time. Time is critical in this situation.
He's very lucky. Not many people fall from the sky and survive.
I didn't realize it at the time, but I was addicted to hang gliding. It is so much more awesome than anything else that I had ever done. Everything else fades to that. But the longer I was away from it, And the more I got involved in fun things with Nancy, I realized that I was enjoying life a lot more.
Yeah.
Do both of you, before these witnesses, promise to do everything in your power to make this a happy and lasting marriage? We do.
21 months after the accident, Nancy Lumley and Gilbert Aldrich were married.
You ready to run? Yeah.
That was a long, hard road back to recovery for me, and I had never felt that kind of love and care. I just don't ever want to be without a woman who can love me as much as she loved me then.
Mr. Shapiro, step out of the car, please.